Hello everyone and welcome to another video in this channel. Today, a couple of special announcements before we jump, but we're going to take a look at substance nodes inside of Maya. There was a question on the last video and I don't think I've ever covered them properly, so I decided it was going to be a good idea to have this on the channel so that anyone who is wondering about how to use substance painter nodes or substance archives knows all of the things that we can do with them. But before that, a quick announcement, my friends. This is, if you're watching this today on Monday, it's the second to last day of our special early bird promo, which is 90% off. You can find the link down here in the description. Don't worry, I'm gonna make sure to have the link there so that you don't miss it. And I've actually added a bonus chapter to that course. We had the secret chapter here in the YouTube section with the base, and there's a new bonus chapter about Maya rendering. Some people were asking for that, so we added it. There's this new Maya render. This one that you see right here is the Maya render, and I show you how to do it in one of the newest videos on the course. So if you want to check that out, make sure to check down link here, down here on the link, or you can go into Skillshare. You guys know that we have the Skillshare promo as well. You can find the link down here. So what are substance nodes? Well, as you guys know, instead of the 3D world, there's every now and then we have really important softwares that really change the way things work. I'm actually really proud to be one of the first adopters of the Substance Painter family. I remember I was studying at Neumann back in 2015 when I first started hearing about this, and I always struggled with Mari. Mari was one of those softwares that I really had an issue with because I didn't really love the workflow. I was able to do it and I followed it, but it was not as intuitive as I would have loved. So at that time, Logarithmic had its own thing, and I started playing around and pushing Substance to its limits, and I was able to get some really nice pieces. Eventually, Adobe bought Substance and Logarithmic, the whole package, and now it's part of the Cloud family. So you do have to subscribe as a separate piece, I think. It's like $20 or $30 a month. And as I've mentioned before, if you subscribe to Substance Painter, you will get access to a lot of very cool stuff. If you subscribe to the full suite, you also get access to a 3D stuff. So if we go here to models, you can see there's a lot of models. This is mainly for a product rendering and stuff. It's not so much for production, although there are certain things that you could definitely use for production. I don't think I have, as you can see, I'm not subscribed to the full Adobe or Substance suite, so that's why I don't have access to all of these things. But I do have access to all of the materials right here. And the materials can generate some really cool looking stuff. So I'm going to download this one right here. This is Stone Parts, which looks very cool. As you can see, it's a heavy file because these files come in a specific node that's called the Substance Archive. And Substance Archive are meant to be used inside of the Substance family of softwares. But now you can also use it inside of a lot of softwares, such as Unreal Engine and Maya, of course. As you can see, we can get some really cool looking stuff. So I'm gonna show you how this works. Inside of Maya, if you're using one of the latest versions of Maya, you should have here on Windows, Settings and Preferences, Plugin Manager. These are all of the plugins that Maya comes by default with, and if you buy or download more plugins, you get them as well. As you can see, I have loaded and auto-loaded the Substance Link, Substance Maya, and Substance Workflow plugins. Pretty much the whole Substance package here inside of Maya. When you do that, you're gonna get this thing right here, and these are all of the available things that you have. These are the Substance settings, which are the default things that you're gonna be using to generate the textures. This is how you can select a Substance file to load it into memory. This one right here is to bake or to know where to bake the textures. I'll explain this in just a second. This one right here, I think just refreshes or upgrades all of the old nodes. This one we'll use in just a second. This is when you are not using a Substance archive, but you're rather loading textures for a model. There's a very quick way to build a shader. This is, of course, to navigate to the content browser. As you can see, there's a couple of examples here by default. And this opens Substance Source, which it doesn't seem like something's link, which is the same library that I have, and information and stuff. So very simple buttons. There's not a lot of things to the plugin, but it's important that we know how it works. I'm gonna go to lights. I'm just gonna create a quick stack item light. Let's open the file right here, and I'm gonna use this brown photo studio. There we go. So we have a soft effect. Cool. So let's say we want to use a Substance archive, okay? We're going to just grab the Substance archive and use it inside of Arnold. It's very easy to do so. The first thing you need to do is go to Hypershade, and here you're going to either look for the nodes over here in the Substance file, or the way I prefer, you press Tab, and you just write Substance. and this one. You're going to use the substance node texture. This is super, super important because this is the node that does pretty much like all of the magic. So now I'm going to navigate to my downloads folder and I'm going to grab this one right here. I'm going to hit open. And it will immediately open the archive, but it has not generated any of the maps that we need to create a shader. In order for us to create this as a shader and use it inside of Maya, we need to go down here. And as you can see, these are the most commonly used like render engines. Arnold, RenderMan, V-Ray, Redshift, and Maxwell. Maxwell, I think that's... I don't remember what that one is. So we're just going to select this Arnold or Standard Surface. Any of those two will work. And when you select it and you say Create Network, it will extract the information that it needs from the archive, and it will generate all of the maps that we have right here. So as you can see, we have a base color, normal map, roughness, metallic, height map, and ambient occlusion. Those are by default the ones that you get for the Arnold workflow. Over here, as you can see, of course, we're going to get like a preview of the element, which is looking quite nice. And here's the fun part. There's a couple of interesting things right here. So first, we can select the density at which we want the textures to be generated. If I just apply this to my plane right here and I press number 6, I'm going to get rid of I'm just going to go on tone so we can see it. There we go. So if we take a look at this, you're going to see that it looks fine, but if we get close, it's really pixelated, right? So for a like long shot or a far away shot, it looks or works like perfectly fine. But if we want to have more texture, we can go back to the node, and up here, we can select the size that it's going to be generating the textures at. 2K is usually like the standard size that you might want for your textures. They're, of course, going to be a little bit heavier, so there's going to be more memory involved. But as you can see, we get way more detail on the textures. Of course, here on the preview, you're not going to see like everything. You might see a little bit of the normal map and the roughness and stuff, but the cool thing will happen at render time. So that's pretty much it. But there's a couple of things that are important here for the substance node specifically. For the other maps, one of the cool things is that it automatically knows what kind of thing we're using. So for instance, the color is already set to sRGB. The ambient occlusion is set to raw. The normal is set to raw. The roughness is set to raw. For those of you that are a little bit more aware of why this is important, we need to color correct certain textures so that they display or do their function properly on the shader, and it automatically does it for you. So you don't have to worry about anything because it's automatically there. So that's super cool. Now, the first thing is the bake. So right now, what it's doing is it's actively sampling the file from the actual archive, and it's using the archive to generate the maps. The issue with that is that it's a little bit more performance heavy because every time you render, it needs to go to the archive, get the information from the archive, and then output the files and render them. When you already have things set up in the... Oh, sorry. Someone screamed and I wasn't sure if it was for me or something, but no, it's like someone's having a party over here. So when you're sure you want or you have the proper like textures and stuff, one of the cool things that you could do is bake this into a file so that you no longer have to generate it from the archive and it's already there. And the way to do this is, of course, by going here to bake substance outputs. As you can see right now, I'm going to bake them directly to the folder, to the downloads folder, which is not ideal. The ideal thing will be to bake it to your project folder. But yeah, it's just that. You just bake the substance, you just select that thing right there. And what's going to happen is when I render, it's going to bake those information. So now on the second render, third render, and stuff like that, it won't need to generate them because they're already going to be there. Now, why is this important? Because another really cool thing that we have here is the presets. We can change how this thing looks. For instance, if I grab this one right here and I say apply, what's going to happen now is everything's going to change to this like gray preset, or if I hit apply here, it's going to change to this like beige preset, and I can create, as you can see right here, my own preset. So if you work very frequently with one specific material and you change the parameters to get something that you like and you want to share that, you can save that into the archive, which is really important. As I just mentioned, you can change things such as the color, like we can make this like rocks darker or lighter, and they will update in real time and on render time, of course, and you will get like a slightly different effect. So let's say we want to make things slightly less rougher, so a little bit more shiny with this roughness map right there. So we do that. You don't need to hit the bake map again, like it just knows that that's the place where it's going to bake. And when we render, one thing that did change was the resolution, so we're going to have to go... I think we're fine. It might look a little bit like off right now, but on the render, it's going to look fine. So once you're ready to render, we just go here to Arnold and we hit render. What's going to happen is we're going to get this. And at first you might be like, what the hell is going on, right? Well, the problem is we did include the height map into the Arnold network. which is something that you might want to do if you have the resources and the time to render displacement. But if you don't, you might be wondering, like, why is this happening? Well, the height map is one of those maps that will push and pull the vertices up and down depending on the grayscale of the object, and it's really good to add more like depth, like real depth, like actual like crevices and spikes and hills and valleys and stuff. But it's quite expensive. So there's a couple of ways to fix that. First of all, on the substance node, if you deactivate the hide map here, it will just erase that channel and you're not going to use it. But if you do want to use it, there's a couple of things that you need to take into account. First of all, the object needs to be subdivided at render time so that you get more points, more subdivisions, and therefore the vertices can move up and down in a better way. So I'm going to go here to Arnold and I'm going to say subdivision, Catmull Clark, and let's try 4 subdivisions. So at render time, it's going to divide it 4 times. It's not 4 more times than what it has right now. Every time it's going to be 4 more polygons. So right now, as you can see, we have 200 triangles. The next one's going to be 800 triangles. And then it's going to be, I believe, 2400 or something like that. So it's exponential, right? But now when we render, as you can see, we get way more definition on the effect. Why? Because we have more points to pull and push on the different elements. The problem is that the height map needs to be tweaked based on the size of the object. Sometimes the object is very small, and therefore the height needs to be a little bit less. So if we go back to the hypershade here on the displacement shader, we're going to bring the scale down to 0.1. And if we do that and we render again, down here, should be a little bit better. Maybe a little bit too much still. Let's try 0.01. There we go. So with 0.01, as you can see, we are getting a little bit of that like push and pull here and there, but it's not as intense. I do feel like the textures is not like baking properly at the size it should be baking at. So let's go back here. Oh yeah, as you can see, 2056. There we go, 2048. The higher the resolution, the more exact your displacement map is going to be as well. So that will have an impact. Let's try this again. And as you can see, we start getting some really interesting effects. Now 0.001 or 0.01 was probably way too low. Let's go to the displacement. Let's try 0.05. Just a little bit more. Let's hit render. And there we go. Now, as you can see, the stones are being pushed and pulled in a way more interesting fashion. And this is not a normal map effect. Like, this is actual geometry. If I go to like a low angle right here, you're going to see how these guys right here are actually like pushing and pulling the surface of the object. Like, we can go really like to the side like this. And actually it's not pulling it as much as I thought it would. Did I deactivate it by mistake? Let me check. No, it is working. Yeah, it should be working. Let's try 0.1. There might be an option that I forgot to check over here. We do have the Catmull Clark. I'm not going to pin quarters. Let's just do smooth. Let's see if that helps. There we go. That helps. So by removing the pinned corners and going to smooth, now we allow the borders to actually like move around, and you can see how the things are like pushing up and down. So yeah, as you can see, when we render this, you get a really deep, interesting effect, and it looks like there's a lot of volume on the rocks themselves. There's a very cool trick that I like to do. If we create like a small little plane right here, actually, let's go for this like disk. There you go. And we just leave it right there. But we're going to assign a new material, and it's going to be an Arnold A standard surface, no color. And let's turn the transmission on. This is like water, right? So thanks to the fact that the element is, what's the word, is doing the tessellation and the displacement, it looks like a puddle, right? Let's decrease the roughness here. And yeah, that's a very easy way to get like a puddle. I'm just gonna move it slightly lower so we get like a cover, and there we go. So again, this is thanks to displacement. Like, the fact that we have displacement is what's allowing us to get the rocks like pushing up and down on this plane and creating depth. So that's the way you use a substance node. There's really not much information. You can tweak all of the values, you can tweak the textures, you can tweak the color, you can tweak the roughness, you can tweak anything that you want. And if I quickly navigate to my downloads folder, you're gonna see that here are the baked textures. So whenever you generate this thing, you will save textures that you can use in other projects as well, which is just perfect. It's a really nice ways to work, because again, it's gonna give you a really interesting effect here. I think we can lower this to 1.3, which is like water's like effect. It's a little bit weird that we're not seeing. I was expecting to see the what's the word? The bottom part of the element, kind of like glass. But anyway, so that's the first one. Now let's very quickly jump into Substance Painter because I want to show you the other part of the like element that's really good as well. So I'm not going to export this sphere. Well, we can use something else. I'm just going to go to Substance Painter, and I'm going to open File, Open Sample. I'm just going to open the previous sphere. Actually, no, not the previous sphere, because the previous sphere, yeah, it's not a sphere. So preview, open sample. Let's do the tiling material. There we go. So let's say we're like building a material, and this material is cool because we actually have height information that's gonna be displaced. So I don't know. Let's do some crazy stuff. It doesn't like really need to be like anything specific. I'm gonna use this like paint roller thing. Did it work? Meadow cover, there we go. So we have like this meadow cover, looks interesting. And then let's add like a jet engine, whatever. As you can see, this one has displacement on it. I am gonna go to the height information. I'm gonna bring the height down so it's not displaced as much. And I'm gonna say black mask. And let's go to our brush. And let's use like a dirt. Again, this is just a random material because I wanna show you how this would work. Let's go to base color. There we go. Something like that. As you can see, it's kind of like I'm thinking about this like if it was like an abandoned sort of like piping thing or whatever. And then let's throw in like another material like this aluminum thing. Let's add a black mask as well. And I just want to have like some brown shapes like this. Okay, same for this one. Let's bring the height down. So I'm just using this again as a quick example to show you, like, imagine you've textured something and then you want to use this specific texture inside of Maya in a quick way. So I'm going to say File, Export Textures. And when you're working with Arnold, the best thing you can do is export this as Arnold AI Standard. But let's say you exported them like traditionally as PBR metallic roughness, okay? And I'm just going to say Export. I don't even know where to export it. All the way over here. That's fine. I'm just going to copy that route. And when you have textured an asset and you want to apply a material to an asset, it's very easy to build your own material by going to this one right here. This apply workflow to mask. It's extremely easy because, again, when you normally connect things, you need to manually connect each thing to the input that it needs, and you need to change the image to the specific color channel that you need to make sure that you get the proper thing. And this, by the way, happens the same thing in Unreal or inside of Blender. Like, this is a normal, common process for texturing effects. But in here, what I can do is I can actually navigate to the folder where I have my textures, grab all of them. There's an option here, select multiple maps, grab all of them, and it will automatically detect, as long as it has the flags, the base color, normal, roughness, metallic, it will automatically detect the channels that you painted. And when you hit apply, and if you go to the hypershade, you're gonna see that we've created a new material that has all of the materials connected properly to where they need to be. So the base color here is expecting an ambient occlusion, but we're getting the colors anyway. The normal is set to raw. And again, if we check this one right here, you're going to see that we also have the height right here. So the height displacement. So this one, I'm also going to bring this down to like a 0.1 because I know it's going to be a little bit like heavy. Let's change to Cadmo Clark. And again, like 3 divisions or something. There we go. Let's hit render. So now if we render, well, of course, nothing's going to happen. But if we select this guy and assign the new material, which is AI Standard Surface 3, and we render now, it's going to convert those materials again to the texture files that we normally need, and voila, we are going to get the like the exact material that we have. Here, it might be a good idea to increase the intensity of the displacement. Maybe it was a little bit too little. Let's go back to 1, and you can see how these things are now pushing on the surface. So they're actually deforming the object. Let's try like a 2. You can of course like play around with this one, and the more you increase it, the more intense the effects are gonna be. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Here, if you're sticking around and just want to see a last couple of like little rendering process here, I'm gonna show you a very quick like lighting setup to showcase these things. First of all, I'm gonna zoom in here. I might make this thing a little bit bigger like this. And then let's have this right here. Let's duplicate it one. Have it right here, maybe like smaller. Let's have another one over here like this. Let's close the render. I'm going to say Arnold render. Now we have three little spheres that are going to be displaced plus the floor. Let's see how this looks. As soon as it decides to render, of course. Let me pause real quick and wait for the render. I'll show you. There we go. So here the render is going. As you can see, it's doing its sampling thing. You can see the rocks. If the rocks need a little bit more resolution, we can, of course, increase this to another resolution. What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to move the camera like this. I probably do want to change the intensity of the displacement on the rocks. So I'm going to quickly jump to the hypersheet, press these little two buttons right here. Press this one right here. Oh, it's not that one. It's this one. There we go. Grab the shader, and there we go. So here, let's go 0.05. I'm also going to save the scene before anything bad happens. Let's just call this substance shaders. Let's find a nice like framing like that. And let's go to the render again. One thing you can do if you have GPU, of course, you can change this to GPU, which is going to give you a better render. There we go. Not bad. Looks very interesting. I think going a little bit lower so we can see the... Here, there's another thing we can do. I'm going to increase the size of this thing so that we have a nice like element here. But as you can see, the rocks are going to become bigger, right? So the substance node also allows us to tile the texture. We can go all the way back to the place 2D texture here and say, hey, you know what? We want to tile this 4 times. So without having to go to 8K, we just tile this 4 times. And as you can see, we're going to get more rocks. We probably do need a little bit more resolution on the plane now, because otherwise it's going to look a little bit weird. So on the plane, we can try and go for like 5 subdivisions, which again is quite a bit of an increase, but you're going to see the rocks look a little bit better. Let's go back here. Maybe 4 is a little bit too much. Let's try 3. And tiling textures is way, way better than just like increasing subdivision or whatever. Here, let's go back to like a 0.01. I can definitely tell that the intensity is a little bit too much. 0.01 might be a little bit too little, so 0.025. There we go, not bad. Now, displacement is not magic, so even though you can get some cool stuff, modeling like all of the rocks would be even better, right? Let's quickly go here. Oh my god, I hate Windows 11 with that. There we go. So this looks a little bit better. There's a couple of things I'm going to do here for the rendering. Just super simple stuff. I'm going to bring the exposure down to like a -2. And then on the perspective view, I'm going to add an Arnold area light. I'm just going to do a 2-point light setup. Super like traditional 2-point light setup. One is going to be coming from this side. It's going to be quite exposed and it's going to be warm. So let's check this out. There we go. A little bit more exposed. There we go. Probably a little bit more. Not as warm. There we go. And then I'm going to duplicate this light. Have it on the other side. And this is going to be cool. It's a very like super common like contrast thing. I'm actually going to go blue. There we go. Go for like a pale blue. Go. I'm going to increase the intensity on this one a little bit more. It's going to give us, there we go, a little bit more light. I'm actually going to like bring this forward and kind of like on a 3/4 front view like this. I don't love it. I think we had like a more interesting contrast when it was coming from the, there we go, something like that. And finally, just a last final touch here. If we go panels, look to selected, and we select this guy, you can see it's 33 units away from us. So we can go to the camera, and we're going to go object display, or sorry, Arnold. We're going to say enable depth of field, 33. Let's try an aperture of 1. It's going to be quite a bit. That's going to give us depth of field, as you can see right there. Just going to make things look a lot more cinematic. So 0.5. There we go. Probably like 0.25. So we just blur out the last part right there. And that's it. Last thing we can do is we can just go and do a full HD render. So we do HD 1080. And over here, we can turn on on display, or sorry, in the post-production. The render view again. Oh, for some reason it's disabled, so it seems like it bugged out. But we could turn on the denoiser. So for some reason mine bugged out. I'm probably gonna have to reset Maya to get it back in. But yeah, there we go, guys. I mean, this is a very quick and well, 25 minutes, but it's hopefully it's an in-depth like class and information about the what's the word? The substance node. How to use the textures that are coming from substance very quickly and create your shader, or how to download an archive and use it inside of Maya to generate a very cool looking texture. Super, super useful technique, guys. Make sure to use it in your workflows, on your renders, on anything you're doing, because it saves a lot of time and it's really, really really efficient. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Again, just remind you guys that these are the last 2 days for the advanced ZBrush character creation course. If you want to check it out, the link's down here. I'll see you on the next one. The next couple of days are going to be a little bit tricky. Hopefully I'm going to be able to upload. So stay tuned and I'll see you back on the next one. Don't forget to comment, share, subscribe. Bye-bye.